بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والحمد لله رب العالمين وأفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم على سيدنا ومولانا محمد الصادق الوعد الأمين وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين وأصحابه الغر المحجلين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما وعملا متقبلا يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم لا سهل إلا ما جعلته سهلا وأنت يا حي يا قيوم تجعل الحزن إذا شئت سهلا سهلا. لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك اللهم ونتوب إليك. وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين وبعد. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to everyone, and welcome to our latest class on Nur al-Idaah wa Najat al-Arwah, a book on purification and prayer. And we are currently studying the section on Salah, prayer, and we have been talking about the congregation, sajdas and so forth, various aspects. And today we're going to talk about joining a congregation of prayer in various situations that you have started your prayer and then there's a prayer in the masjid. So this is more to do with being in the masjid or around a congregation, and then something happens, what do you do? So this is a series of classes. So if you haven't seen our previous ones on different topics, they are very practical. I think last week's was very practical on making up prayers and rulings related to everyday kind of issues around Salah. So please do look at the previous videos. Please do subscribe to get notified for every week's lessons, a weekly class on Wednesdays. And we have with us, as usual, Brother Hassan. Assalamu alaikum, Hassan. How are you?
Wa alaikum salam, Shaykh. Yes, alhamdulillah. You well?
Alhamdulillah. Yes, all praise be to Allah. Everything is good. Thank you for asking. How about yourself?
Hey, ticking along. We're looking forward for this class every week, Shaykh.
Alhamdulillah. Thank you. Yeah, I look forward to it as well, actually. I enjoy the time you spend looking into these various issues regarding Salah. It's quite interesting sometimes.
Yeah.
So I think it will be today. It's very focused on the congregational prayer today and joining the congregational prayer. So I think it requires a bit of focus from our viewers and from yourself today. So let's. So we're on. It's the chapter on joining the prayer with the Imam. Yep.
Yeah. Catching the obligatory prayer.
What's page is it on?
Page is 246.
246 on the Nur al-Idaah English translation copy. If you are using the PDF, that's normally circulated. I think it's a few pages back. But yes, section on during the prayer with the Imam. So Bismillah, as normal, Hassan's going to read, and then we'll pause and explain what's going on, inshallah ta'ala. Off you go.
Bismillah. Catching the obligatory prayer. If one starts an obligatory prayer alone and then the prayer in congregation commences, he is to cut off his prayer by giving salam standing and join the Imam, provided he had not performed a prostration of the prayer he began alone.
Yeah. So if you start your fard, let's talk about fard congregation, okay? This is not at the moment other prayers. We will move on to them, inshallah. So if you've started your fard prayer, let's take Zohr as an example, and in the masjid or close to a masjid or somewhere where there's going to be another congregation, and you see a congregation starting. How does it start? It starts with Iqama. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, Ashhadu anna Muhammadar Rasulullah, Ashhadu anna Muhammadar Rasulullah, Hayya ala-salah, Hayya ala-salah, Hayya ala-al-falah, Hayya ala-al-falah, Qad qamatis salatu, Qad qamatis salah, which means prayer has been established, that it's starting, it's being done. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, La ilaha illallah. You hear that, you think, oh, there's a congregation. I'm praying my 4 fard of Zuhr alone. They're praying their 4 fard of Zuhr in congregation. What do I do? What's the situation? So it says here, you break your prayer. So you cut off your prayer by giving a salam. You say, Assalamu alaikum rahmatullah. And then you can give 2 salams, but 1 is enough. And you then go and join the congregation with the intention of the Zuhr fard behind the Imam, Allahu Akbar. And that's what you were to do, provided you have not done a sajda, okay? Provided you have not prostrated. This is to the point of your sajda. Anytime before that, you start the prayer. Within a few seconds, you just break your prayer and join. Even if you start reading the Quran and you're about to bow or prostrate, you still break your prayer and join the congregation. However, if you prostrate, so now you've prostrated, you've done 1 rakat. By the way, a rakat consists of standing, reciting, bowing, and prostrating. So if you've done the prostration, you've completed 1 rakat. Prior to that, you've just got standing, reciting, and this is for fard, of course, and ruku, bowing. That's not a complete rakat. So because you haven't completed a rakat, you can actually break your prayer off and just move into the congregation. This is the situation, right? Once you've completed a rakat, you can't do a prayer that's 1 rakat and leave it anymore. This is a rule we have, right? Prayer has to be 2, 4, 6, 8. Nafil prayer, especially 2, 4, 6. So you got witr and maghrib, which are 3, but any nafil prayer is in 2s. We talked about nafil prayers before, I believe, right? We had a section on the nawafil. So 2s. So what you have to do now is, because you're going to break this prayer and join the congregation, you're still going to do that as we're going to learn. You're going to make it into 2 rakats to make 2 nafil, and then break that prayer, or you actually finish the prayer, give salams, and then go and join the congregation for Zohr. So that's what it's going to say, but I just thought I'd explain that. And that's only as well if it's a 4 rakat prayer. So Zohr is a good example, because it's going to say, it's going to actually jump into the Fajr mas'ala first. So let's do Fajr as well. If you're in Fajr and you've prostrated, you still break the prayer. Let's actually read and we'll find out. So carry on, Hassan.
And if one prostrates for the first rakah in other than a 4 rakah prayer, such as Fajr and Maghrib, and then the praying congregation commences, he is to cut off his prayer.
Yeah, so the Maghrib and Fajr came first. I went to the 4 rakat prayer first. So what I said will come in the next few words. But other than the 4 rakat prayer, talking about fard the prayers, is Zohar, is Fajr and Maghrib. Fajr is 2 rakats, Maghrib is 3 rakats. Okay, guys, straightforward, I hope. If you've prostrated for the first rakat of Fajr, you still break your prayer and you join the congregation. Because if you were to complete 2 rakats, it'd be fard to complete. If you're in Maghrib and you've made the prostration of the first rakat, you still break your prayer and you go and join the congregation. Okay, I hope that's clear. So if it's Fajr or Maghrib and you have made the first prostration, break your prayer and join the congregation. Okay, that's not what we're going to do in Zohar, Asr, and Isha, but in Fajr and Maghrib, if we have prostrated for the first rakat. If you haven't, same ruling for all prayers. If we have, then for Fajr and Maghrib, we will still stop. We won't do anything different, and we'll go and join the congregational prayer. The question arises before we move on to the 4 rakat prayer: what if I don't? What if I don't break the prayer and I pray another rakat and make it 2? Well, if you do it for Fajr, you've prayed 2 rakats. All you've got left to do is the tashahhud. So you've got to complete your prayer now. So in that situation, you would complete your prayer and you've missed the congregation. If you choose not to break your prayer after 1 rakat and you continue and pray 2 rakats, you will now have completed your Fajr obligation, not in congregation, but that's that. And then you're done, you're finished. You can't do anything after that. For Maghrib, if you were to not break the prayer, remember you've prostrated for 1 rakat, you said, oh, I'll pray 2 rakats and then I'll join the congregation. No, you can't do that either. If you pray 2 rakats of Maghrib, you've prayed most of Maghrib. Right? When you do most of something, you've got to do all of it. It counts as all of it, in fact. So it would not be valid now to break the prayer and go into the congregation for Maghrib if you've prayed 2 rakats of Maghrib. So that's the other one like this. I pray 2 rakats of Maghrib, all of a sudden the congregation starts. What do? You finish your Maghrib. Right? I've prayed 2 rakats of Fajr, and I'm just at the bottom. I'm sitting down, and suddenly a Fajr Jamaat starts. Just finish your Fajr. You can't join that. So if you've done 2 rakats, which means the prostration of the second rakat, for either Fajr or Maghrib, then you will simply complete your prayer regardless of a congregation starting close by. Okay, this is for Fajr and Maghrib. Right? Is that clear, Hassan?
Yeah.
You sure?
I don't know if it ever comes into practice, yeah.
Okay, let me ask you a question then. Right, you're praying Maghrib, yeah. And you've prostrated for the first rakat, yeah? And you're even on your second sajda, wherever you are, right? And all of a sudden, there's a new Jamaat starting. What do you do?
Finish your Maghrib and join.
No, you don't. This is the point, right? You break your Maghrib, not finish it. You break it.
Break. I meant to say break.
Oh, you meant to say break. Okay, don't confuse our viewers.
No,
yeah?
sorry. My mistake.
Alhamdulillah. So you break your prayer, meaning you
Break.
give one salam, Assalamu
Yeah,
alaikum wa
yeah,
rahmatullah,
that's
and
what I
you
mean.
join the congregation. Yeah, brilliant. That's
Yeah.
right. You don't. You
Not
arrive,
finish.
join the prayer. Not
Yeah,
finish. Finish as in break. I can see what you
yeah,
mean now. Finish your prayer as in stop it. Yep.
yeah.
Not finish as in go to 3
No,
rakats and.
no. Yeah,
Okay, brilliant. Thank viewers. Please understand. You don't finish. I go to the end. You stop, break. It's called breaking
break
the
the
prayer.
break the prayer.
Qata, yeah, literally means to cut off the prayer, and you join the congregation. So, what happens to the previous prayer? Somebody asked that question. You've just done a rakat. It counts as just a reward. It's not like it's not nullified and worth nothing. You get the reward of reading the Quran. You get the reward of a bowing, a ruku, a sujood. Whatever you're doing, you get a reward for, but it doesn't really count towards any of your prayers. There's reward for it because you do an act of worship. Okay, the second question on the same masala. You've prayed 2 rakat of Maghrib. So you've done your first rakat, you stood up, in your second rakat, and you're doing at-tahiyatu lillahi wa salawatu, and all of a sudden, there's a Maghrib congregation that starts. What do you do now?
Finish your Maghrib. Complete your Maghrib.
So be careful now how you say it, right? So you pray to the end of your Maghrib. Let's be clear
Yeah.
for our viewers, yeah? You pray to the end of Maghrib, and then what do?
Your namaz is done then.
Your namaz is done. You can't do anything after that. You can't join Maghrib and pray
Yeah.
Tirakat again. You can't repeat a Fard prayer, and you can't play Tirakat Nafal behind an Imam. So you can't join that congregation or anything. So yeah, you just finished. So that's why he's saying in that little section there. And the same applies for Fajr. If you're doing 1 rakat, give salam, break your prayer and join the Imam. If you're doing 2 rakats, just finish your Fajr, and you can't join the congregation for Nafal because there's no Nafal after Fajr. So in both circumstances, same thing. If you're doing 1 rakat, break it, join the Imam. If you're doing 2 rakats, finish your prayer. That's it. For Fajr and Maghrib, is how that occurs. If all this situation, like we said today, is about joining a congregation and what happens in these circumstances. So now we're going to move on to the 4 rakat prayer, which I actually discussed in the beginning. But if you want to read that, please.
If one prostrates in a 4 rakat prayer, such as a Zohar, and then the prayer in congregation commences, he is to add a second rakat to it, then finalize these 2 rakats with salam, so that the 2 rakats he performed are regarded as voluntary prayer. After that, he is to join the group offering his obligatory prayer.
Yes. So if you now have prayed, so first of all, the very first thing we said was, if you have not done anything, not prostrated for the first rakat, meaning, then you just go and break your prayer and join whatever prayer is. So let's take that same situation for Zohar now. You haven't done anything. What are you going to do? Break the prayer and join the 4 rakat congregation. You've now, in this masala, you've prostrated for the first rakat. You don't break the prayer now. You carry on and you pray a second rakat. So you add a second, and by that you make 2 rakats and you do tashahhud and you give salam. So you do a full prayer of 2 rakats. But what's your intention become now? Nafal prayer. Because what you're going to do after 2 rakats is give salam. After giving salam, you're going to go and join the Imam, the congregation, and pray your 4 rakat fard of Salat al-Dhuhr. I think that's pretty clear, right, Hassan?
Yeah. No, it's clear.
Yeah, so just to repeat it for the viewers, and so we all just 100%. If you have prayed 1 rakat, which means you've done the sajda of the first rakat, that's the cutoff point, right? Before the sajda, break it and join the congregation. After the first sajda in the first rakat, don't break your prayer. Continue and perform 2 rakats. This is for Zohar, Asr, and Isha, remember, 4 rakat prayer. Pray 2 rakats, which will count as 2 nafil. Give salams. It's a full 2 rakats normal. So you read at-tahiyat, you read Durood Sharif, you can make it a bit shorter because remember, you got to join a congregation. Don't take ages on it. You miss the congregation. The whole idea is to just make it a quick prayer and then join the congregation. Once you pray your 2 rakats, it counts as nafil. You go and stand behind the imam or with the row, whatever it is, and you make intention of 4 rakat fard of Salat al-Dhuhr, following the imam, Allahu Akbar, and you now pray your fard in congregation, right? That's what you should do if you are in that situation, which has occurred to me. It's not common because you tend to wait for a congregation, this like that, but sometimes you're late to the prayer and you start praying your own prayer and a congregation starts, or you got the wrong time and the congregation, you think, oh, wait a minute, what time is the congregation? Is different to what I thought. So then what do? You do this. You break your prayer and you join, as we've described in all these 5 different prayers, right? Each prayer has its own ruling. Fajr and Maghrib are the same, and Zohar, Asr, and Isha have the same rulings because they're 4 rakat prayers. Then the question arises, Hassan, I think, and probably the next thing you'd say is, okay, I've prayed 1 rakat in my Zohar, I add another one, and I give salam and I join the prayer. I pray 2 rakats and I give salam. So whatever you are. What if I've prayed 3 rakats? Yeah. What if I've prayed 3 rakats of Zohar? If you read on, we'll get an answer, I think.
If a person offers 3 rakats from a 4 rakat obligatory prayer, then he is to complete the prayer.
Yes.
Yeah, I think
Then
there's another little.
yeah,
After this, he is to join the group with the intention of offering optional prayer, except in the Asr prayer or Fajr.
Yeah, there you go. So if you've prayed 3 rakats, meaning if you've prostrated in the 3rd rakat, remember a rakat is standing, reciting, bowing, prostrating, rakat, right? So if you've done that in the 3rd rakat, the first prostration is enough. Then you mean your head touches the ground. So that's the actual cutoff point, is head on the ground. That's the prostration, right? That's it. You've done 3 rakats. You're going to continue. What do? You finish the whole prayer now. You pray your whole Zohar, your whole Asr, or your whole Isha. This is a 4 rakat prayer. Now for Zohar, you can and you should, after you finished your prayer, you've done 4 rakats, you can join the Imam and the congregation for 4 rakat nafal. You can pray nafal behind them. For Isha, you can do the same. So you prayed your Isha, I think, oh, I missed the Jamaat, I prayed 4. They're praying a Jamaat. Join and pray 4 rakat nafal. Why are you going to do that for? First of all, it happened in the time of the Prophet ﷺ that there was 2 men, 2 companions, they came to the masjid, they prayed, they sat down, and they waited for the prayer to finish. The Prophet noticed them that they hadn't joined the prayer. He asked them, what's going on? You didn't join the prayer with us. That's what's, not out of, the what do you call it, suspicion, but just to clarify, is there a reason? You ill? You not? Exactly. They said we've prayed, O Messenger of Allah, so we thought, we can't pray 2 prayers, 1 prayer again. So that's again a ruling we can't repeat a prayer. The Prophet didn't allow that. It was never done by anybody. But what he did tell them to do, this is where this ruling comes from. He goes, if you come to a prayer and it's already been prayed by yourself and you see the congregation, then join that prayer to perform with nafal. Join the prayer and be a part of the congregation. But you're going to get just extra prayers, aren't you? Because you've done your obligation. So you're going to get extra prayers, which are called nafal prayers. And that's it. Extra reward. So don't sit separate. What's going on there, praying, you're sitting separate. It looks odd. So in this situation, for Zohar you can do this, and for Isha, the only 2 prayers practically you can do them for, because other prayers, after Zohar, after Fajr is disliked to pray, Maghrib is 3 rakats, and Asr is disliked to pray. So this is why it says, except for Asr, because there's no dislike in Zohar and Isha. So if you were there at Isha time or Zohar time and you missed the congregation, there's a congregation happening and you've already prayed your Zohar, or you prayed it in the situation where you prayed most of it, congregation starts. You finish your prayer and you join the congregation with the intention of nafal prayer, and you'll get the reward of a congregation and congregational prayer and nafal prayer as well, inshallah ta'ala. You can't really say you prayed your Zohar in congregation, that's not correct, but you can say you prayed congregation for the nafal and you got rewards of a nafal prayer, etc. So there's another situation which somebody might ask the question. I've prayed 2 rakats of Fajr. I pray 2 rakats of a 4 rakat prayer, so Zohar or Asr or Isha, and I'm standing up for the 3rd rakat. I've not prayed the 3rd rakat. I'm during the 3rd rakat, so reciting Quran or about to go into ruku or around the area somewhere. You're praying the 3rd rakat, and then a congregation starts. Okay, do I finish my prayer still? What do I do in this situation? If you read on Hassan, I think it's going to explain that.
If one stands for the 3rd rakah of a prayer consisting of 4 rakahs, thereafter the praying congregation starts before he prostrates for the 3rd rakah, he is to cut off his prayer standing by giving finishing salams, and this is the most correct view.
So again, similarly, when you were doing the 1st rakat, you gave salams and you joined the congregational prayer, right? You're not doing a sajda. If this happens in a 4 rakat prayer in the 3rd rakat, so you're standing for the 3rd rakat, as you're standing, what did it say there? The prayer is a 4 rakat prayer, and the iqama is done. So iqama indicates there's a prayer commencing. Then you think, oh, wait a minute, I'm on my 3rd rakat. What do? You don't have to pray 2 rakats now. You just give salam standing, because if you're standing or whatever position you're in, you're probably most likely standing for your 3rd rakat. Yeah, you just finish it there. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. You've done 2 rakats. You stood up to do more, but it doesn't matter. Now you go and join the congregation for Dhuhr, Asr, or Isha. Yep, is that clear, Hassan?
Yeah, clear.
Okay, brilliant. Alhamdulillah, I went pretty well there. I thought it might be a bit more bit more complicated to explain, but I think it's pretty clear. I think Hassan's got the effect of making everything clear for us, mashallah.
No. Yeah, I think it's your explanation, Sheikh.
Okay, alhamdulillah. Normally we do this section, people get confused. Unless Hassan's just saying, I understand.
No, it was actually quite clear, Sheikh. Genuinely, it's
Okay,
quite clear.
okay, alhamdulillah. That's good to
You
hear.
explained well.
So now we're going to carry on to other similar situations, but not in the fard prayer, or not necessarily fard to fard. So you're not praying fard of Zohar and then you're going to fard of Zohar. It's like you're playing sunnahs, you're going to fard and stuff like that. Similar situation, if you carry on.
If a person is offering the sunnah of a Friday prayer, and then the Imam emerges for the sermon, he is to give the finishing salams after 2 rakahs. This is also the case if one is offering the sunnah of a Zohar prayer, and then the prayer in congregation commences.
Yeah,
He is
carry
to
on.
give finishing salams. Following this, one is to complete the sunnah after praying the obligatory prayer.
Yeah, Jazakallah khair. So this is now for sunnah prayers. You're praying 4 rakat sunnah before Zohar. Okay, this is for Zohar, by the way. Okay, this doesn't apply to any other prayer. Or Juma and Zohar. It could be either, right? So if before Juma, before Zohar, you pray 4 rakats. Sunnah muakkada. It's well known. You should all know this and practice this, inshallah. Currently, obviously, we don't have congregation still. Actually, we do now, alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah, we do have congregation. The masajid are slowly reopening. And alhamdulillah, it's a pleasure to be able to go to the masajid and pray with everyone, but with, of course, the full regulations, shoe bags, no wudu areas, the social distancing. Alhamdulillah, life continues, but in a different way to what we know it really is quite weird. But alhamdulillah, I think, just to get out and about and be safe as well is good. Alhamdulillah. So anyway, if you are praying your sunnahs of Zohar, or if it was the case, Jummah as well, and the congregation starts, right, which is for Fajr, for Zohar, or the Imam appears on the minbar for Jummah. So not the prayer starting, just the Imam coming out. And Imam coming out here, just to explain, normally, and of course in what a lot of you may be accustomed to, is the Imam gives a Urdu or English speech before the Friday sermon, and then they do a azan, then they do sunnahs, and then they do a khutbah. Traditionally, that's not how it's done. When I was living in Syria, or you go to places like Morocco, Egypt, you travel to Turkey. I don't know how it works in all of these countries. I've been to Morocco and Turkey and Syria, from what I recall, and a few other countries as well. But what they do is they just do an adhan. That's the start of Jummah. It's an adhan. Okay. Once they do the adhan, that's for Fajr, that's for Zohar. Nothing happens. People start praying their their Sunnah prayers, etc. After a short while, the Imam appears and he goes on the minbar and he gives salam to everyone who doesn't give salam. There's a difference of opinion whether he gives salam on the minbar or not. But he gets up and he sits down, and there's another adhan. And this is now the official khutbah of Jummah. There's no pre-Jummah speech in any language. It's just pure Arabic, right? It's just the way of it's what time the Prophet asked on the same thing. Because the Arab countries, they speak in Arabic. Most people understand. Not everyone actually understands the classical Arabic, to be honest. But most of people do, if they've got a basic education, that's what they study in school. It's the standard Arabic kind of thing. Anyway, so they'll do a azan, and the Imam will stand up and do a khutbah. The Imam will do a khutbah, and he'll get down and pray the Friday prayer, Jummah, 2 rakats, and that's it. Assalamu alaikum, the prayer's done. Your Jummah's finished. There was no pre-Jummah speech. There was no announcements or anything like this, right? At the end, you obviously pray your sunnahs before, your sunnahs after. There are sometimes announcements afterwards, etc., etc. It's just life as normal after that. But the whole Jummah sort of procession, rituals are done pretty together. It's like start with the adhan, give a bit of a gap for sunnahs, do your azan, do the khutbah, do the prayer, do salam, you're gone, right? That's it. And they tend to go in these countries and disperse quite often. Some people stay and pray their sunnahs, some people them at home, etc., etc. So that's how it used to be. Now, if you come pray your sunnahs of Jummah, the Imam's doing Urdu speech or English speech, right? Or may well give you time to do your sunnah prayers. That's not a problem. We're not talking about the Imam being on the minbar or being available or at this time. What we're talking about is when the Imam ascends the minbar, the pulpit. That's when, in today's day and age, this would apply. So it says here, if the Imam comes out, normally the Imam would not be out. He would be in a room downstairs Imam's room, etc. And when he'd come out, he'd literally come out straight for the khutbah. The first thing he'd do is get on this pulpit and say salam or no salam, and wait for the adhan and just do a sermon. There'd be no pre-sermon rituals by the imam. He'd pray sunnahs in his room, right? He'd pray sunnahs before getting up on the pulpit. So that's how it's done. So here it says the imam comes out. That's how it used to be done. He used to appear. And Prophet used to come from his home straight to the pulpit, right? Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So that's the sunnah. That's how it should be done. Of course, we have changed the sort of setup of Jummah to accommodate people, to educate people, and make sure they learn something, and not just go through a ritual where they have no clue what's going on in Arabic, etc. So yeah, it's important we do that. I'm not saying it's wrong, but it's not the traditional normal way. So these books were written based on that, or like I said, in a lot of countries they still do it like this because they understand Arabic. Anyway, what's the ruling? Let's go back to this now, right? Let's just give you that's a bit of description of Jummah. So the ruling is if you're praying your sunnah prayers, and I'm not talking about fard prayers, I'm talking about sunnah prayers, okay? If you're praying your sunnah prayers, you started 4 rakat sunnah muakkada before Zohar or before Jummah. In Jummah, the Imam ascends the pulpit, or in Zohar, you see the Jamaat starting. What do you do now? You can pray your 4 sunnahs because you're not praying fard. And then you join the congregation? No. What you do is you don't want to miss the congregation. So you pray 2 rakats. It says you give salam at the end of 2 rakats, okay? You give salam at the end of 2 rakats, and that is best. And then you join the congregation and you pay your 4 rakat fard of Zohar or Jummah, whichever one it is. And then it says you make up the sunnahs, because remember, the 4 sunnahs before Zohar are a 4 sunnah prayer. It's not a 2-2. You can't split it up. So if you've prayed 2 because you shortened it to join the congregation, it's 2 nafil. When you finished your fard with the imam or your Jummah with the imam, afterwards you'll make up 4 sunnahs, and then you've got 4 sunnahs to pray in Jummah as well, so another 4, and in Zohar you'll have 2, right? So you'll pray the 4 sunnahs before Zohar or before Jummah, after Jummah or after Zohar, in this situation where you didn't have enough time. You started it, but the imam came out for the khutbah, or the congregation was commenced in Zohar. You pray 2 rakats, you give salam, you pray 2, you said Allahu Akbar. You don't have to waste that. You can pray 2 rakats and then join the congregation. The reason why it differs to the fard, somebody might say, well, why don't we pray 2 rakats in the fard? Because that's the fard. You can't pray half a fard and leave it unless you've done the first sajda. We said that. If you've done the first sajda, pray the second rakat for Zohar, and then for the nafil, give salam and join the congregation. If you haven't done anything, you just give salam and join the fard of that time, because you're leaving a fard for the same prayer. You're not trying to duplicate. Here you could do in the sunnahs, even if you prayed all the sunnahs. By the way, if you were to ask a question, okay, what if I prayed all my 4 sunnahs, then join the congregation? That's fine as well. That's like valid, but it's not the preferred method. What you should do is pray 2 sunnahs and 2 nafil and then join the congregation. You like I said, if you prayed 4, it's not the what you should do, but yeah, it doesn't affect the fact that you can go and join the congregation after, because you prayed 4 sunnahs, you've got 4 fard to pray now. You go and join the congregation. You might have missed a few rakats, but that's what's going to happen. So yeah, that's the situation with the sunnahs and before the prayer. And why I'm saying it only applies for Fajr, for Zohar, because before Fajr it's going to be a different ruling we're going to learn, inshallah, very shortly. There's no sunnahs before Maghrib, and the sunnahs before Asr and Isha are not muakkada. So it doesn't matter if you miss them or you pray 2 rakats, whatever, it's to join the congregation, right? So you don't have to repeat them or anything like that. So these are the 4 sunnahs before a prayer that have this ruling. Yeah, we'll talk about the Fajr in a second. Bismillah.
Shaykh, just on that, the Friday one, the 4 sunnahs for before the Jummah. What if you're on the 3rd or the 4th rakat?
Then you complete it. Yeah. If you're on the 3rd or 4th rakat, you complete it. If same for Zohar, if you're on the 3rd or 4th rakat, sunnahs before the congregation starts, just complete your sunnahs and join the congregation. Yeah, it's not a problem. Also Jummah, you just complete for Jummah, complete your prayer and then sit down and listen to the khutbah. Yeah.
When you say congregation for a Jummah, it's essentially when the khutbah starts.
Yeah, that's right. So that's what I mean. Yeah. We say congregation prayer. For Zohar, it's the 4 rakats. For Jummah, we're saying when the Imam gets on the pulpit for the khutbah. Yeah, that's it. Okay. If that happens, you do 2 rakats, stop. If you've done 3, complete it for 4 and then sit down and just listen until the prayer starts. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. If a person arrives at the mosque and finds the Imam offering the obligatory prayer, he is to join the Imam and is not to preoccupy himself with the Sunnah, except the Sunnah of the dawn prayer, provided he is sure he will not miss the obligatory prayer with the Imam.
Yep. And
Though if one fears he will miss the dawn prayer with the Imam by praying the Sunnah, then he is to leave it and join the group.
yeah, so this is what I mentioned. So when you come to any prayer, first of all, and you see the Imam and the congregation are all praying the Fard, you don't busy yourself with any other prayer. You just go and join the congregation and you pray your Fard of Zuhr, Asr, Maghrib, Isha, except for Fajr. In Fajr, if you arrive and you see the Imam is in prayer, but you haven't prayed your Sunnahs of Fajr, if you prayed them, then you obviously just join the congregation. You can pray them at home if you want. But if you arrive and you were planning to pray them in the masjid, which is common, and all of a sudden, congregation started for Fajr, you do try to pray your 2 Sunnahs of Fajr. These are the most emphasized Sunnah prayers of all Sunnah prayers. If you were to put the number 1 Sunnah prayer after any obligatory or wajib prayers, it would be the 2 Sunnahs of Fajr. So they're very, very highly emphasized. They were even closely considered to be actually wajib or almost necessary. They're not the Sunnah, but because they're so highly emphasized, at the highest point you could reach on emphasized Sunnah of prayers, then you make these before you join the congregation. If though there's a condition, you can't pray them, miss the congregation prayer. You're not going to miss the prayer completely. We're talking about the congregation here, but congregation prayer is more important. So if you can pray these sunnahs quickly, and the etiquette is not to pray them in the middle of the masjid or next to the congregation, is to go to the back or behind a pillar or somewhere to the side, quickly pray your 2 sunnahs, and then come and join the congregation. If you are confident that you can join the congregation and preferably a whole rakat, then pray your 2 sunnahs and come and join the congregation. If you feel as though, you know what, if I pray my sunnahs, by the time I do my 2 rakats, they'll have done their 2 rakats, don't leave your sunnah of Fajr, like it says at the end there, and just go and join the congregation of Fajr, and you've missed your sunnahs. That's like we said, you've missed them. There's no qada of them. There's no making up sunnahs after Fajr. Fard has been prayed, so you can't make them up either. There's no nafil after, no sunnah nafil after Fajr. So that's it, yeah. So that's why you should try and get them in if you can before you join the congregation. If not, join the congregation, pray your Fajr in congregation, and that's it. For that day you haven't prayed your sunnahs of Fajr, and there's no making up of that. Okay, and this is another question actually, which the next point actually leads into. You may have heard, and Hassan's like, I'm sure I've heard you can make up your sunnah of Fajr, right? I'm sure there's somebody told me you can do qada if you miss it because it's the most important sunnah. Hassan, you were thinking along those lines, am I right?
That's exactly what I was going to say to you next.
I mean Hassan's head.
I've been told straight after, I think you've got to wait till sunrise, I think it was.
Yeah.
So you just wait till sunrise and then do the 2 sunnahs.
Okay, right. So we're going to explain today the exact ruling on that, okay? That's half correct what you've been told. Yes, because these sunnahs are important. Look, Hassan knew that there's a special circumstance here, and I'm sure many of our viewers are aware of these, different this ruling on Fajr sunnahs. So yes, there is for these sunnahs, there's, like I said, there's already a difference to the other sunnahs, and similarly, there's no making up of any sunnah prayers apart from the 2 sunnahs of Fajr with certain conditions or circumstances, right? What are they? Bismillah. If you read on, we'll find out.
The sunnah of the Fajr cannot be made up unless one misses the Fajr prayer with it as well.
The Fard, yeah. So when you say misses the Fajr prayer, the Fard as well. Okay, carry on.
Okay. If one misses the sunnah before the Zuhr, he is to make it up before offering the 2 rakats which come after the Zuhr prayer. Furthermore, the makeup of this sunnah is to be done in the time of Zuhr.
Sorry, yeah, that's what I was going to explain how to pray afterwards, but that's the Zuhr masala. We'll come on to that. It doesn't, yeah. So just to go back to the Fajr. So if you miss the Fajr, so there's 2 conditions to making up sunnahs of Fajr. 2 conditions. The one is mentioned. The second one is we've got to mention to clarify. First of all, you've missed the sunnahs of Fajr. That's the whole idea. But you've also missed the Fard, which isn't a good thing. But let's say you overslept or whatever reason, you haven't prayed Fajr at all. So it says, first of all, you have to miss Sunnah of Fajr with the Fard. Okay? If that happens, what you're going to do, you're going to Next time you do wudu, you're going to pray, you're going to do qada, you're going to make up your fard, which we talked about last time, of fajr. Now, this is only for the day itself. There's a condition. Now, the second condition is when you make up that fard of zuhr, you can also make up the fard, the two sunnahs before fajr, provided you do that qada, that make up, that you're making up the missed prayer, be on the same day. So it has to be literally after sunrise, and before the zawal. The zawal is the declination, the incline of the sun, as we'd say, going down, I suppose. After midday, not 12 p.m., but whenever the middle of the day is. The zawal time now, I think, is roughly about 1:09 p.m. I can't remember what I saw last time. Or probably earlier than that. They put different times on the calendars, but the actual zawal time is when the sun reaches its peak, and then it starts to make its way down. When it reaches the peak, that's zawal. So when it reaches just after the peak, that's zawal. The istiwa is the middle, where it stays at the middle. It's not steady, it's constantly moving. When it gets past the middle, it starts going down. So when sun rises, it starts going up, guys. Yeah, you all know this, right? When it gets to a peak, it stops rising and it starts setting. And, that's when the evening starts kicking, or the afternoon, evening, right? So noon time is when it's in the middle. Noon is not 12 p.m. technically. That's just the middle of the clock. The noon time is the middle of the day, which is when the sun rises to when the sun sets. The middle point is highest point in the sky, the sun's highest point. If you make up your fajr on the same day before that time, then you should pray your two sunnahs of fajr and qada. So I'm making up the two sunnahs of fajr, Allahu Akbar, of today, this morning. I just missed them. You finish your two sunnahs of fajr. I'm making up the two fard of fajr of this morning that I missed, Allahu Akbar, and you can pray your sunnahs and your fard together. There is no ruling of praying or making up your sunnahs alone. So if you just miss the sunnahs and you pray your fard, that's it. You don't, after sunrise, make up 2 rakat sunnah. No, that's not the ruling. Yeah, that's the ruling. So you can't make them up before sunrise anyway, and you can make them up after sunrise, before zawal, according to Imam Muhammad. I believe it's the opinion of Imam Muhammad ibn Hassan al-Shaybani, one of the great imams of jurisprudence, rahimahullah ta'ala, which is followed. So, we follow the ulama and their understanding. And if he's given us an opportunity to pray sunnahs or fajr, I think we take them. And that was his understanding, that you can make. And there are other scholars that actually said, so the whole question actually is just on this point, is can you make up sunnahs? Is there such thing? Because qada of fard, making up fard is agreed upon. You can make up fard, you shouldn't, you have to make up fard, etc. What about sunnah and wajib as well? You have to make up wajib, etc. That can be made up. So certain wajib can't be made up, like Eid prayer. Once it's missed, it's missed. But your witr prayer is wajib, it should be made up. What about sunnah prayers? Can you make up sunnah prayers if you miss them? We're studying the Hanafi Fiqh Nur, al-Idaah, and you'll find in here what we've discussed before. There's no qada of sunnah prayers apart from this one fajr prayer, from fajr sunnahs. So if you miss your sunnahs of zuhr completely and it becomes asr time and you forgot to pray them, or you just didn't have time for them, then there's no, okay, I'm going to make up my sunnahs of zuhr. There's no qada making up of sunnah prayers. That's the Hanafi school. I believe in other schools of thought, other schools of jurisprudence, they do allow, or they do consider making up sunnah prayers. I believe, I'm not 100% sure which ones they are, but I think I've come across some opinions of this valid opinions, differences of opinion. We did a podcast, I think, a week or so ago, I think last Wednesday, yeah, about following schools of thought and what it means and all of this, right? Hassan, did you tune in or did you watch any of that?
I was tuned in the whole way through up until
Alhamdulillah.
about 12:30, and then I got a little bit late.
Yeah, no, we went over by a long time. We didn't expect to go to
Yeah.
2 hours. I think it ended up being a lot longer than we expected.
Yeah.
But I think our viewers liked it, so they kept tuning. Most of them were tuning in still and got good feedback on this. This probably going to be one of the best topics or feedbacks and viewers we've had. As you can see, it's a topic that people are confused about, don't understand exactly what's going on. Why do we have 3 different opinions or laws regarding some things in Islam, some prayers like now and stuff like that? So we were trying to basically explain that. So you can check the video out and we had a discussion on why that is just part of life. And I think one beautiful point that Ustaz Ali mentioned on that day was, look, the Prophet ﷺ prayed in different ways, and he did do things differently, because that's why the hadith show. Now, if we were to take some of them and leave others, there might be reasons to do that, and that's what some scholars did. But we've actually, the action of the Prophet ﷺ is no longer practiced today. But as we take all the different opinions, guess what? all those actions are more or less still continuing today. So every single action the Prophet did, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, is being emulated in the 21st century, 1400 years on. That in itself is a blessing and a miracle to think about, that everything the Prophet did is, still being talked about, studied, practiced, and so forth. So this is how this is one of the beauties of having the opinions as well. I just thought that was a beautiful point he mentioned, alongside all the actual other points, actual scholarly discussion and the Quran, the Sunnah, what it tells us in terms of, and the fact that the Sahaba from the very beginning even had their own differences on these exact things that we're talking about now. So it's just a natural part of life, and I made a point at that in that live stream. I think it's very important to mention or reiterate that point, is that it shouldn't be a cause for us to doubt or feel that there's something wrong. It's part of the tradition. It's part of the beauty of the tradition, not the negativity. People think that the differences in this regard, okay, there's different levels of differences or conflicts and things like that. Conflict's a strong word. These aren't conflicts, and we talked about that. These are just different understandings based on different methodologies. This is part of our rich tradition and heritage, and this should be celebrated. And it was, if you look at the scholars themselves, they did celebrate it. And we've got to be fair. At certain points, it wasn't, and at certain points, it became a bit of a there was maybe some hostilities or difficulties amongst groups, even though they shouldn't have been in this regard, because this is a kind of difference where it's just perfectly valid to differ. And students of sacred knowledge and people who are in this field know 100% how it works and all the different opinions out there and who says what, and it's well known. It's not a really complicated thing once you study a bit of Islam and get into this whole thing. But like I said, some people think that it's a wrong thing, a bad thing. Why can we have two opinions regarding prayer or this, that, either? Yes, you can't have two opinions regarding the beliefs in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, like, is Allah one or not? There's no two beliefs about that. You're either a Muslim, you're not a Muslim, you have Iman. And we talked about this. We said there's no like following others in beliefs. If they believe what is right or what is wrong, it doesn't matter. You believe what you believe because you're a Muslim and you have to know your own beliefs. And we talked about that, and we talked about the fact that some following without knowing the exact rule details is wrong. And so it's a long topic. I'm just trying to summarize it a little bit because it's important we understand this, because of the feedback we've got after the actual session we did. It was actually quite surprising, I mean, for myself, to see how much people were intrigued and followed and had follow-up questions and and so forth after this particular topic. So thank you to Ustaz Ali and everyone tuned in, and hopefully there's benefit in what we discussed, and hopefully benefit in the sense of people understand better and can get on with their worship, can get on with following the rules of Islam and their lives as human beings first of all, and families, and work, and their duty to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala within all of that. Alhamdulillah. So that was the Fajr Masala. You can make up the Fajr Sunnahs if you miss them with the Fard. We've got to pray them on the same day before the sun reaches its zenith, the highest point, and then that's fine. And if not, then just make up the 2 rakats of Fard of Fajr. So if you delayed it till Zohar time, you don't make up the Fajr Sunnahs, you just pray 2 rakats Fajr, because you can't pay, that's the ruling, and then that's that. So what about the other one? You read this, so I'll just explain it. It says if you miss the 4 sunnahs before Zohar, right? So you got Zohar prayer, Fard, you missed the 4 sunnahs before Zohar, you haven't prayed the 4 sunnahs. For whatever reason, you missed them completely, or like it says before there, you prayed 2 rakats and joined the congregation, you haven't prayed your 4 sunnahs. So it says you make them up before the 2 sunnahs after Zohar. So remember, before Zohar, there's 4 sunnah muqaddah, emphasize sunnahs. After Zohar, there are 2. If you missed the 4 before, you just missed their place. You haven't missed the time. Time for sunnahs is all the Zohar time. The order is important, but you missed it now because of the congregational prayer, whatever. So what do you do now? You pray the 4 rakats. It's not makeup. So you're not making them up. You're just praying them out of order. So what do? One opinion, which is the one mentioned by Imam Shurum Bulali rahmatullah alayhi, is that you pray the 4 first and then the 2 after, which is kind of what I do. I just follow that. But you will find, and I have seen, and you may even hear from imams or scholars and so forth, and it's a discussion in itself. It's not a major discussion. You just, you can pray your 2 sunnahs first and then pray your 4 sunnahs after that. And some prefer that. It's not really a big thing, right? You just got to pray your 4. Just make sure you try and pray your sunnahs inshallah ta'ala. But yeah, you will find both. And people ask that question. I've been asked that several times. I missed my sunnahs before Zohar. Do I make them up or do I pray them? They're not make up, right? We're just praying them. Do I pray them before I pray the two sunnahs after? Or do I pray them after the two sunnahs after Zohar, right? So the answer is before. So you do 4 fard if that's what happens, right? You do 4 sunnahs normally, but you pray 4 fard. Then what do you do next? You do 4 sunnah muakkada, and then you do 2 sunnah muakkada, and that's it. Simple, I think, right, Hassan?
Yeah, simple. As long as you're in the time of Zohar.
Yeah, I think the time of Zohar, that's correct. That's correct. So one situation could be you're running out of time, so you pray your fard first. That's fine. You can do that. You should do that if you're running out of time. Then you realize, actually, got 6-7 minutes. What do? You pray your sunnahs. So what would you do next? 4 sunnahs and then 2 sunnahs. If you run out of time, that's it. Like Hassan said, there's no time left. You don't make. There's no sunnah prayers left. Yep. Okay.
Yeah. A person is not considered as having offered the Zohar prayer in congregation if he only catches 1 rakah with the Imam. Rather, he is called the superiority and excellence of the congregation.
Yeah. So
about the one who catches 3 rakahs with the Imam.
Yeah. Different with other. So the question here is really not a major question for us, I think, because we don't really know where this affects us. But the question is it, if you've prayed 1 rakat with the Imam, 2 rakats or 3 rakats in congregation, have you prayed congregation, and do you have a congregational prayer, or you haven't prayed in congregation because you didn't pray the full prayer in congregation, but you do get the reward of congregation, and you can't really say you prayed in congregation, right? That's what somebody might say, what's the point of that? The only real point of it is if somebody said or made an oath that I will not miss today's Fajr congregation prayer, right? And he prays 1, 2, 3 rakats. What's the ruling? Did he pray the congregation or not? Then that would apply, right? So this whole idea, in all circumstances, we say he gets the reward of being in congregation because he was there for 1, 2, 3 rakats. So the reward is not lost. The fadila, the virtue, the reward is there. But what is the case now? He said he swore an oath that he's not going to miss Zohar Jamaat. He's prayed 3 rakats. He missed part of it. Does that mean he's broken his oath or not? So as you can see there, if he prays 1 or 2 rakats, I would say as well, because we mentioned 2, then he hasn't prayed in congregation. Okay, what does that mean? He broke his oath. Whatever his oath was, he's got to now expiate. Right, expiation of oath comes in there. Right, so this is where it applies. Really, it doesn't apply anywhere else. But what if he's prayed 3 rakats? He says here there's a difference of opinion if he's prayed 3 of the 4. So this is a 4 rakat prayer. Similarly, if he's prayed 2 of Maghrib, right, 2 out of 3. So why is there a difference? Because of praying most of the prayer. You've prayed most of the prayer, so kind of you should be considered to be prayed in congregation. But the correct opinion is that you have to complete the full prayer to get the congregation. So yeah, if he said I'm going to pray in congregation, he just got 3 rakats, he's not praying in congregation, and he would have broken his oath. You have to pray the full 4 rakats to be considered to be in congregation. And that's just basically the difference between did you pray in congregation, or did you reach the congregation? That's a different thing, isn't it? You join the congregation. It's different. Words have different meanings. So if you said I'm going to pray in congregation, then that indicates a full prayer, 4 rakats in congregation, not I'm going to get late and join a few rakats, right? So that's, comes down to oaths, really. It doesn't affect anything else. I mean, it does affect the reward, but you get more reward for obviously the full congregation than less of it. But it doesn't affect anything after the prayer or during the prayer. Whereas if you swore an oath, that's where the difference applies, right? It could be a big oath. You could say, if I don't pray in congregation, let's not go down that road, right? My slave is free. Yeah, and I forgot slave in the olden days. They have these kind of examples in the big books of fiqh. The other example they have is divorce, which I don't want to go down that road. They have usually divorce or freeing slaves as the examples. They're big things. So yeah, if I don't pray congregation, my slave is free, meaning I better congregation to keep my slave, and otherwise, all this wealth is gone because they're worth a lot as well. So you don't pray in congregation, or you get 3 rakats. What happens? Your slave's free, right? And yes, if it was divorce, it would be divorce. So be careful what you say. regarding the prayer. So that's why it's talking about that, this word, do you get a congregation or not? What do we say? It will affect oaths. That's really where it's going to have any effect. Other than that, it doesn't really have any effect on rulings apart from just the amount of reward or lack of reward. Does that make sense, Hassan?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, I'm just wondering based on what that, maybe I've got that a little bit wrong, but would somebody kind of knowing that just think, well, what's the point of joining other than the fact that I'm just getting the swab for joining the Jamaat? My actual namaz is not
Okay,
counted as
good point.
Jamaat.
Yeah, good point. Right? Uh, why would you join a prayer now that
Why rush to the
I'm not
masjid?
going to get Jamaat? You're saying I'm not praying congregation, so why would I join? Because that's the ruling. You join. Right? It doesn't matter when you join. That's just the ruling. All we're saying really here is what we're going to say technically from a very, very fiqh point of view with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. With the, you may even be considered to have prayed in Jamaat with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the ruling that's going to be applied to your oath. That's what it's for. Like I said, only affects oaths. So if your oath is broken or not, well, depends. Are we going to call this praying congregation or not? As for you joining, that's always the case. Just join whenever you can. This shouldn't be a reason for you to think, oh, well, no point then. Just join whenever you can, right? Your oath will be affected depending on the rulings, right? But not your necessity or your encouragement to join congregation for men. You should always try to do that, inshallah ta'ala.
Is it sinful to not join or
Yeah.
deliberately?
It would be, yeah. It's not a major sin like you've done a fornication or something, right? Or drunk alcohol or something like that. But yeah, it's considered sinful. It's considered suspicious to not join a congregation when you're sitting there and like, I'm not going to join these. I'm going to wait till they finish and pray by myself. That's actually quite. It can be an enormity if it's going to cause uproar in the masjid, and in certain circumstances it could. In the past, it could. So many Sahaba would pray in congregation to avoid dispute and kind of strife in the community, to avoid this kind of, why you're not praying with them, you're praying with them, because things happen like that. So yeah, it depends on the situation, but it could become a big problem. So yeah, you just join. Why would you not join? Like, that's the thing. So if you're in them, so normally going to the masjid and join the congregation is a highly emphasized sunnah, similar to the Fajr of Sunnah of Fajr, or some people said wajib, like I said, so it's borderline wajib. So if you're there in the masjid, the congregation, you decide, oh, well, there's only 2 rakats left, I'm not going to join. That's not an option now. You got to join. Yeah.
The next one, Sheikh, the title I've got here just says branches, so you have to explain that one.
Yeah, so the next section here is just on nawafil, and when you join the congregation, so it's branches as in miscellaneous. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it just says branches, so I wasn't sure what that meant.
Yeah.
Okay. A person may perform as many voluntary prayers as he likes before the obligatory one if he is sure its time will not pass. If not, then he has to relinquish this.
Yeah, so meaning, obviously, normally you got your sunnah muakkada, but let's say you want to pray more nafil before the Zuhr congregation, you can. You want to pray more nafil before Asr congregation or Asr prayer. Obviously, don't delay till a disliked time. Don't delay till it's going to cause you problems. But yeah, there's a freedom to pray as many nafil as you want. There's no restrictions. Apart from Fajr time. I don't know if you've done that before yet or not. Our Fajr time, that's when it's restricted. And of course, our makruh times and so forth were at the beginning of the chapter on prayer. In Fajr time, I think we did do it then. You only pray 2 sunnahs of Fajr and then 2 fard. There's no other prayer done. Okay, so you want to do any nafil prayers, do them before Fajr at tahajjud time, or once the sun rises, and what they call the ishraq time, the prayer that we talked about when the sun rises, and then duha later on. But actually Fajr time, 2 sunnahs of Fajr and then 2 fard of Fajr. Other prayer times, whenever it's not disliked to pray, then you have freedom to pray nafil during all of Zuhr time, beginning of Asr time, after Maghrib, before and after Isha. It's a freedom all the way till Fajr. There's a freedom till pray nawafil as much as you want. As long as you just give time for your fard as well, of course. It's obvious mas'ala, but just clarifying that. Bismillah.
Sheikh, is there something that we just went past that reading Nafal after Asr is disliked as well?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
So,
we've not covered this in our live sessions, but we did
we
go with yourself. We did go over the
previously,
prayer
yeah,
times, and we talked about the three categories of prayer times. One, which is
yeah,
the normal prayer time. You can pray in that prayer, and then there's the mustahab prayer times, the recommended prayer times for the fard prayers. Then there was the disliked times, so prayers where it's disliked to pray nafil, and then there's prohibited times actually. So there's two times, there's four categories: prayer times normal, and then within those prayer times, the recommended time of that. So Zohar is from zenith, the decline, all the way till Asr. The recommended time is somewhere towards the beginning, just to give you a bit of time for the heat to dissipate a little bit. Um, Disliked times are like after Asr, and prohibited times are like sunset time or just before sunset, sunrise, zawal. So there was four categories, I think, if you summarize it. So what we're talking about is nafil prayers can be prayed any time in the normal prayer times,
mhm.
not in the disliked or the prohibited times, which is at the beginning. If you've got the book, just look in the beginning of the chapter on salah. I think it starts with adhan and prayer time. So in that section, you'll find the details.
Okay. If the Imam has recited that which is required in prayer, thereafter a follower bows before the Imam does, then if the Imam joins him in the bowing, the follower's bow is deemed valid. However, if the Imam does not join the follower in the bowing, then the follower's bow is invalid.
Yeah. I don't know if that made sense to everyone, but it's basically talking about joining the prayer now. So the actual time of joining the prayer, if you join the beginning of the prayer, it's fine, right? That's how it's normally done. But the circumstance here is, when do you join the prayer that you still get the rakat with the Imam? And when do you join the prayer that you don't no longer get that rakat with the Imam? And the cutoff point or the deciding factor is the ruku'. You don't have to stand with the Imam. So normally, Allah Akbar, you both standing, Imam recites, you follow, you listen. If you join at that time, so you don't make Allah Akbar, but you join, halfway through Surah Fatiha or after Surah Fatiha, that's fine as well. You've got the rakat. If you even join without any recitation, without any standing, but where do you join? You join at the ruku time. So the Imam says Allah Akbar and goes into ruku. You think, oh, the Imam's in ruku, Allah Akbar, and then you go into ruku, Allah Akbar. So two takbeers, one for joining the prayer, which is the fard, and one for going to the ruku, which is sunnah. And you get the ruku with the Imam. That's also fine. You are considered to be, excuse me, you consider to have performed that rakat, even though you never stood with the Imam or read the Quran with the Imam. You made the ruku, you're fine. That rakat is counted for you. What he's saying here is, if the Imam was in ruku and you stood and said Allahu Akbar, so you started your prayer, do you get the rakat to the Imam? No. He says you have to make your ruku and be in ruku with the Imam. And ruku, remember, is your hands touching your knees. That's the minimum of ruku. We did discuss that in our lessons. What's the minimum of ruku? Sunnah is to be obviously fully perpendicular with the ground, with your body and your back, with your legs and your back. But as long as your hands reach your knees, you're in ruku. So if your hands reach your knees and the Imam was in ruku as well, you have the rakat. If, however, you stood, said Allahu Akbar, and the Imam stood, and you haven't done your ruku yet, and you went and did your ruku after that, because you think, oh, I've got to do the ruku with the Imam, it doesn't count as a rakat, okay? With the Imam, therefore it doesn't count as a rakat of the prayer for you, okay? So you've missed the rakat. So you missed one rakat, two rakat, that counts as a missed rakat. You'll make that up when you pray your, after the prayer, you become a masbook. A masbook is somebody who's missed the beginning of the prayer, one rakat or more, and then has to make that up after the Imam gives salam. Those who go to congregation prayer pretty aware of that, inshallah ta'ala. Is that clear, Hassan?
Yeah. Basically, catch the ruku. You catch
The
the
ruku
rakat
with the Imam,
with the
not
Imam.
separate. So you say
Yeah,
Allahu Akbar, Imam in ruku, you go down, Imam comes up, no,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
You Allahu Akbar, Imam comes down, comes up, no, right? Allahu Akbar, Imam's in ruku, Allahu Akbar, that's it. You've got the rakat, right? Even if he comes out straight away, as long as there's a moment
Yeah.
where the Imam is in ruku and you're in ruku. And if you're not sure, somebody says, I don't know, I can't see the Imam, I'm not sure. He said, if you're not sure, you haven't got the rakat. You have to be sure. Right? You have to know to a high degree of, I know I was with the Imam. Then that's fine. If you're not sure, if you're doubtful, no rakat, make it up after. That's the question people ask often. I'm not sure. If you're not sure, you haven't got the rakat. You're not got the rakat. Okay.
Make it up. Okay. It is disliked to depart the mosque after the adhan It is like to depart the mosque
Oh,
after the adhan
sorry.
has been announced.
Sorry, Hassan. You read two masalas there, so I'm gonna have to explain the second one. I thought you just read one of them. So the second masala, which you read, I don't know, did they have it all as one in your book, or did they have it as two?
No, there's a bit of a gap in between that in that
Yeah,
paragraph.
yeah. So the gap is because of it's a different masala. The first thing is just joining the rakat. The second masala is you're in the prayer with the imam already, so you're not late. You're with the imam in the prayer. So you, Allah Akbar, you start the prayer with the imam. Okay, so this is a new masala, right? It's to do with the ruku still. So what happens in this prayer is you bow before the imam. So different masala now, yeah. The previous masala was you're late, or you're not late, you're just joining, and you join at the time of the ruku, which is a slightly late. And if you get the ruku with the imam, you get the rakat. If you don't get the ruku with the imam, you don't get the rakat. Now you're in the prayer with the imam, and you are prostrate or bowing before the imam. First of all, that's sinful. That's wrong. The Prophet severe hadith against going ahead of the imam in prayer. Very bad. It's considered an enormity, I believe, right? It's kaba'ir. It's really, really bad. Um, so don't do that. But if somebody did that, what happens? Is that a valid ruku or what? It says if first of all, you can't make that bowing until the imam has read enough Quran for a valid prayer. Enough Quran for a valid prayer is not just Fatiha, it's just 3 ayats, okay, or what's equivalent to them. If he's read that much, which he will have probably, and you go into ruku before him, is your ruku valid? No, unless it says the imam joins that person. So you've gone first, not you, but that person. You hopefully won't do this. Imam's about to, if Imam's going into ruku, Imam must have read a lot of Quran by then, right? Enough Quran. The Imam goes into ruku as well, and at the same time they're in ruku. Okay, fine, you get the ruku with the Imam, and your prayer is valid and everything, but you're sinful for doing your ruku first. Okay, that's how it works. Now, if you do your ruku first and you come out of ruku, after my ruku, and the imam then goes into ruku, that's not valid. Okay, you can't go ahead of the imam and do your own ruku, and then the imam does his. The other way around, it can happen. If the imam does his ruku and then you do your ruku, that happens sometimes actually. That's not a problem if you join the prayer at the beginning. Not if you join late. If you join late, you join from where you join, and that's without a ruku, without a ruku. So this could be in the second, third rakat, right? Wherever you're in the prayer. But if you don't have the ruku with the imam and you went before the imam then that's not a valid ruku, unless you repeat it. So unless you do two rukus. So you do a ruku, come out, imam didn't do ruku with me, nobody did. What are they doing? They're going to ruku now. What do I do? If you join them again, that's fine. That counts as well. So what's happened to your first ruku? It's a waste of time. Not called ruku waste of time. That's not the right way to say it, but it's wrong. It's wrong to do an extra act of prayer. It doesn't break the prayer though. Adding extra acts of the prayer to the prayer doesn't break the prayer. So more recitation, more rukus, more sujuds, more rakats even don't break the prayer. It's just obviously incorrect, and you need to do a prostration of forgetfulness, which we discuss that, Hassan? Are we going to discuss that? No, that's to come.
I think we've got to go on that. That's next.
Yeah, that's coming soon. Yeah, actually, no, yeah, that's the next chapter. Okay, that's next week then. Okay, so brilliant.
Yeah.
But in this situation, because you're with the imam, you won't have anything to do at the end of the prayer. Okay, so you've done a ruku, you've come out of the ruku, doesn't qualify as a ruku for the salah because it has to be with the imam. The imam does ruku, you do ruku with the imam, you qualified for the ruku, your prayer is valid, but you don't do anything at the end because you're with the imam. Imam's controls the prayer, not you and your mistakes. We'll talk about that next week, inshallah ta'ala. But yeah, so hopefully that makes sense. So now, sorry, so you can read the next masala, which was about adhan and
It is disliked to depart the mosque after the adhan has been announced until the prayer is performed, except if one is attending another group prayer.
Yeah, so what that means is you are an imam of another masjid. So if you pray here, then how can you lead their prayer in your own masjid? If you have to go do adhan in your own masjid, and then obviously you're going to be praying there and so forth. So if you have to attend, meaning you're officially part of that prayer or it's part of your duties, not I just prefer praying there. No, for today pray here, and then that's it. So if you have a responsibility in another congregation, meaning you're an imam or a muaddin and so forth, really, you're the caretaker, you got to open up. If I pray here, how are people going to go into that masjid and pray there? It's prayer time. I've got to go, guys. So such a person is fine. They can leave without praying. Anybody else to leave a masjid after the adhan for the prayer has been done without praying the prayer, is makruh tahriman, right? It's makruh as in it's severely disliked, sinful, because of the outward appearance of abandoning the prayer. You might say, I'm praying somewhere else, I'm doing this. No, pray. Even if you pray by yourself, so you're like, I've got genuinely got to go. I thought I'd I've got to, go to London, or I've got this, I've got a flight to catch, whatever. I can't wait another 20, 30 minutes. I'm sorry. Pray your prayer by yourself and leave. That's all you got to do. So if it's Zohar, pray 4 rakats for Zohar and go. If that's really what you need to do, and go. Pray your 4 fard and go. Pray your sunnahs if you can on the path or whatever. If you've got time for sunnahs, pray your sunnahs, right? Because you're not on a journey yet. But the ruling is you should not leave, and you're sinful for leaving the masjid after adhan without performing the prayer in congregation or alone. So you can pray alone as well, unless you are someone who has to attend to and is part of another masjid, jamaat, etc., and you have duties to fulfill. And there's another caveat to that last point. You prayed your sunnahs, you prayed your fard, and you're like, I'm going to go, I've got to go, I prayed my fard. But guess what happens? They start the congregation. What happens now? Can you leave the congregation and go? You prayed your fard, or do you join the congregation? That kind of answers your question, Hassan, as well. If you read on.
There is no dislike if one departs the mosque after having prayed alone, except if the congregation commences before his departure for Dhuhr and Isha. In these cases, one is to join the group offering voluntary prayer.
Yeah, so in Dhuhr and Isha, not in Maghrib or Fajr or Asr, if the congregation occurs, we said, there's a congregation there, what do? You still join. You can't just leave that congregation, right? Because the Prophet, like I said, when these two Sahaba, they did, it was obviously innocent on their behalf. They didn't know what to do. The Prophet was like, no, we don't do this. We have to join the congregation, and we can't be seen as, otherwise. Even if you have to pray nafil, join. So in Dhuhr and Isha, if the congregation commences and you've just done it by yourself, you got to stay for the congregation and, perform it and then leave. Otherwise, you've committed, a disliked act. Yeah.
What if it was a time of Asr and the
So
same
no.
situation?
So you there's no nafil after Asr. So you say, I've prayed my. You maybe announce it to 1 or 2 people in case somebody says, oh, he left, or he's not praying with us, because you can't then, if you've prayed your fard, you can't pray nafil after. So you can't, as we're going to learn in the next point, you can't repeat the same prayer. So you can't pray. So then you should really clarify that with someone. Say, I've got to go. I've prayed my Isha. I prayed my Asr. You prayed it, yeah. Oh, TK. No, that's it. Yeah.
One is not to offer the same prayer he has already performed.
Yeah, which is actually, I think, almost a hadith. The Prophet ﷺ talked about not repeating the same prayer once it's valid. So if you prayed, even if you're doing it bad, with inattentiveness, with you think it wasn't a good prayer, etc., I'm going to do it again to perfect it. That's not how it's done. To perfect your prayers, you do more nafil prayers. Okay, so once you've done a prayer, an obligatory prayer, the thing is, nafil is repetitive. You don't pray the same 2 nafil. You pray new nafil every time. So there's no limit to that, like we said earlier. But for the fard, for a wajib, for any other prayer that's a one-off prayer, like a witr, you don't pray 2 witrs at night, or 3 or 4. I don't want to do it better. And all of your prayers are prayed once and they're not repeated. The only one that is repeated is not repeated, it's just open, open-ended. You can just do as much as you want. Is the nafil prayer. 2 nafil, 2 nafil, 2 nafil. It's 2 new nafil every time, hence not the same prayer. But yeah, so if you feel as though you didn't pray prayer properly, read nafil to kind of rectify that. Read nafil to kind of practice and get your attentiveness and submit and become more submissive and more attentive, or presence of heart, etc. But yeah, no repeating the same prayer. Is that clear, Hassan?
Yep. No repeating.
Yep, no repeating. Yeah, and I think we can stop there. Alhamdulillah. So jazakumullah khairan for everyone. And Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.